am I gonna fire my OBGYN at 30 weeks pregnant in my 3rd trimester? I almost felt catfished. Decision made. I want to hire help. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Lauren. Today I'm actually sitting outside of my OBGYN's office. I will be 30 weeks pregnant with baby number 2 tomorrow. So today I have my 30-week OB appointment. I'm here a little bit early and I was asking you guys over on Instagram this weekend if you had any questions I could answer because I wanted to give you guys a pregnancy update now that we've hit our 3rd trimester. This pregnancy has flown by so fast. I can't believe I'm gonna be 30 weeks pregnant tomorrow. Baby girl is doing really well. At my last growth scan, she was measuring like right in the middle of the bell curve for height and weight. She's growing on track. She has been super active the last couple weeks, just moving and wiggling. Josh and Lila have both felt baby girl move now. Lila was snuggling me the other night and she felt little kicks. Even our dog, Millie, currently loves to sit in my lap and snuggle, and she flips her ears up. She's a Cocker Spaniel, so she has like those big floppy ears. She flips her ear up and lays on my tummy to listen to the baby's heartbeat. So who needs an at-home Doppler system, right? I have a dog. So I thought I'd start out by sharing with you guys how I've been feeling, any of my pregnancy symptom updates now that we've entered the 3rd trimester, and then I'll head in for my appointment and come back and update you guys with how my newest appointment went. I have had some interesting things happen in regards to my pregnancy care team, and even though I'm outside my OB's office, I'm actually heading in for my very first appointment with a midwife. So if you guys have been following along on my channel, you will know I have struggled with being sick since basically the beginning of January. My immune system has been so low this pregnancy. You guys can probably still hear it in my voice, that or my voice has just changed and now I have like a little deep husky voice and it's like, okay, pregnancy, who knows? But basically we came back from having traveled over the holidays and my whole family got sick with the flu. My husband Josh and daughter Lila recovered super fast. Like Lila barely had any symptoms. She had like a slight fever for like 24 hours and was her normal bouncy, energized 4-year-old self the whole rest of the time. Josh was sick for a couple days but recovered pretty quickly. We did all get tested for COVID during that time because we had traveled and it was near the holidays and we were all negative, thankfully. So it was just the flu, but I like could not kick it. And then the flu turned into just having lingering cold symptoms. And because those lingered, I ended up with a sinus infection. And then with all of the remnants of that, viral stuff had just hung out in my system so long, I ended up going to the doctor and she told me I had bacterial bronchitis. So I was put on some pregnancy safe antibiotics and a steroid, and I've been feeling a lot better. I had a really terrible cough and like I literally couldn't talk. I had no voice at all for like 2 weeks. So it was really hard for me to film. So there was a couple weeks there where I didn't get a lot of videos out to you guys because I literally couldn't talk. So I couldn't film anything. So as you can hear, I have a little bit of huskiness left in my voice, but I think we're on the upswing finally, and we are just like keeping me in a bubble through the rest of this pregnancy because I just do not want to get sick again. A surprising symptom I've had that I had never heard about before in pregnancy started kind of mid to late through my 2nd trimester and has continued through now is extra saliva. I had never heard of this as a pregnancy symptom, but I was kind of looking around on things when I was sick trying to figure out what was going on. And apparently, just like your body produces extra volume of blood, it produces tons of extra just fluid in your body when you're pregnant, including saliva sometimes. So I actually think that made it even harder when I was sick because I was congested. I had this extra saliva. It was anytime I laid down, whether I was laying down to take a rest on the couch during the day or at night to go to bed, the extra saliva that was draining was making me really, really nauseous. So even though I've been really lucky this pregnancy to not have a ton of morning sickness or vomiting or anything like that, I have just felt so nauseous because of the saliva laying down at night. So there you go. That was a new one I'd never heard of before. But I will say another symptom that has come back that was to a T the same with Lila is 3rd trimester for me equals heartburn. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I have been getting the worst heartburn in the evenings when I lay down specifically. So if I eat some foods that are higher in acidity earlier in the day, I think because I'm upright and moving around, it doesn't really bother me. But on nights we have like tacos or pizza or pasta with red sauce, basically tomato-based foods or things that have a lot of spice in them. I definitely get heartburn when I lay down at night. So Tums have been my best friend. And then other than that, I'm just trying to like watch the time of day I eat or drink certain things. I made my own coffee this morning. This was just some cold brew with Chobani creamer in it. I noticed I can't drink hot coffee anymore because it causes me to feel nauseous with heartburn. I'm not drinking a ton of coffee anyway right now. That's not really something I'm like craving and wanting. I think it's more out of like my morning ritual of wanting just to have coffee, but I can drink cold brew now. Most of my first trimester, I didn't drink any coffee. I switched to tea because the sound of it was no thank you. Since I was so sick at the beginning of the year, like the last 6 weeks or so, I really got off track from walking. I was doing so good first and second trimester. I was making sure I was getting active and going walking at least 4 to 5 times a week. And now that I'm feeling better, even though yes, I'm tired, I don't quite have that second trimester energy anymore, I still think it's really important to, keep maintaining my healthy weight management this pregnancy. And also I know that with regular walking, it naturally helps the baby to kind of drop into a good position for labor. So now that we're in 3rd trimester, I got to get back on walking, and I'm thinking about doing another mile a day challenge. You guys who have been following my weight loss, health, and pregnancy journey for the last couple years on YouTube know I actually lost 80 pounds prior to getting pregnant this time, watching what I was eating, using the WW program, and exercising. Last May, I did a mile a day challenge, and last August, I actually did a 10,000 steps a day challenge. And guys, seriously, those 2 months are probably the best I have ever felt health-wise, and it was because I was really focused on getting daily movement and exercise in, as well as my water. So yes, I know I have all the cups today, but also my water in. I don't want to overdo it and push myself too hard. Yesterday, I did go with Josh and Lila over to the path at the lake by our house, and we did like a little 1.5 to 2 mile stretch, and I felt great. I was going a little slower. I took a little break because they have benches throughout the wooded path, but I felt really good afterwards. So it's almost the end of February. I'm going to keep like just trying to get outside and walk around my neighborhood, but I think for March, follow me over on Instagram if you guys want to follow along. I'm going to do another mile a day in March challenge because I am like definitely a competitive person, even when I'm just competing against myself. I'll create a new tracker so we can update each other in a little group on Instagram, but just to be able to like mark that day off each and every day and do like, I'm using my phone for questions for the Q&A, but just to be able to like post daily on Instagram and do a check-in like, I got my mile in today, how are you guys doing? It is so motivating for me, and I really need to like keep on it. So okay guys, I'm decision made. We're doing mile a day March. Check me out on Instagram so you guys can follow along with me. Get away from the gloomy winter sitting on my couch, get started back outside. I do live in Georgia, I will say, so I am lucky enough that the weather is already starting to get better. It's been in like the upper 50s, even low 60s a little bit. It's a little gloomy here today. We might get some rain, but at least the weather is getting warmer, and I am just so much more motivated to get outside and go for a walk when the weather is nice. I know it'll only be helpful in labor if I've been active throughout my pregnancy, so we're gonna keep on that. So finally, one of the last updates about how I've been feeling is the nesting urge has kicked into high gear. We have been putting up the baby stuff in our bedroom, trying to get our nursery corner all figured out. We're not setting up a whole separate nursery for the baby right now, even though we have a 3rd bedroom, because right now it's our guest room office, and my parents are actually gonna be coming out to stay with us for a few weeks, leading up to when the baby comes and when the baby first gets here to help with my daughter Lila, and we want them to be able to have their own space, so we're keeping it as a guest room. Infants don't need a lot, guys. And I'm going to do a whole nother video on kind of, now that this is our 2nd baby, what I feel like I really need for this baby, what I don't think I need based on what I used and didn't with Lila, and kind of how we're starting to set up our home to get ready for baby. But I've been cleaning old baby clothes, organizing things by size, getting stuff set up. Josh and I have started shopping around for a couple things we know we're going to need to replace that we got rid of or need to renew since having a baby 4 years ago now. But last week I was just, after our house being sick on and off, I was like, I'm going to deep clean this house. I just had the need to clean and get everything fresh, and I had some energy, so I was like, I gotta take advantage and just do it. You guys, it took me, we don't have that big of a house, right? We have a pretty manageable size home. It's 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, but you guys, it took me 2 days, like 2 to 3 hours each day with many sit-down breaks in between everything. Like I would do a bathroom and then need to sit for half an hour. And then I would vacuum downstairs and need to sit for an hour. And then I would continue and vacuum upstairs and need to sit and do an activity. Oh my gosh, you guys, it took me 2 days to clean my house. So Josh and I have already talked about it, and this time around in pregnancy, the number one thing I'm doing to treat myself, I am not like looking at like bougie expensive baby gear and like this, that, and the other, or spending tons of money on new clothes for myself. I want to hire help. Like hiring cleaning help just so I can get that time back, I can get that rest back. I'm not overdoing it and getting exhausted or overwhelmed. We're gonna start probably next month hiring a cleaning service. We're gonna get the carpets deep cleaned just so we feel like everything is fresh and ready to go for our family. So that's one less thing I have to worry about as we come upon baby time and postpartum. Okay, well, it is actually time for my appointment. So I'm gonna run in, go to my appointment, and when I come back, I have a handful of questions from you guys from Instagram that you guys sent in wanting on updates for the pregnancy. And then I want to update you guys on my GED test, the results, my OB/GYN practice, and kind of some things that have been going on and where my thoughts are lying with my care moving forward through the end of my pregnancy. So hang tight and I'll be right back. Hey guys, okay, I just had such a great appointment. I can't wait to tell you guys about it. Real quick, I'm gonna finish off the questions that you guys sent into me on Instagram asking for updates on pregnancy. You guys always love to ask what Lila is feeling about baby sister and what she's most excited for, and I actually went ahead and asked her this morning and filmed it. So here's Lila's response to your question. Hey Lila, our friends want to know, what are you most excited for about baby sister coming soon? What are you most excited for?
To hold her.
You're excited to hold baby sister?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what else?
And to sing to her.
You're gonna sing songs to her?
Yeah, and put her on the bassinet.
Yep, that's where baby sleeps. Have you been practicing? Your baby carriage is back there. Have you been practicing with your baby? Mm-hmm. Practicing taking her on walks?
Watch me do it.
Yeah, sure. You can show us. Is that your baby? Oh, she's sleeping. Oh, hello, baby. You are such a gentle sister. Oh, that's Millie. Millie's excited to be a sister again, too. She's very excited. I will say, for sure, the last few weeks, she's been starting to get a little bit more mommy clingy and wanting extra snuggles and to cuddle in bed in the mornings. And we've actually had some sleep regressions with her, with like waking up throughout the night and just like needing me. And like Lila has always been, we've been blessed. She's been such a good sleeper ever since she was little. And she's never really been too clingy towards either Josh or I. She's always been kind of in between and just like will go to whichever one of us whenever she needs something. Never really like a super strong daddy's or mommy's girl. But I think with Josh having been out of town and working so much, and with baby sister coming, we took her for her 4-year wellness check because she just had her 4-year-old birthday. And I was asking her pediatrician about like, is sleep regression, is that something that happens around age 4? Is that common? And she said it definitely can be. They're growing so much at this age and they have so much going on, you know, they're little people now. She's not a baby anymore. And so, you know, either things like nightmares or dreams or just like sounds and things like that waking her up, totally normal. But her pediatrician was also like, also, when are you due? And I told her, I was like, well, we're almost 30 weeks. So, you know, another 8 to 11-ish weeks to go. And she was like, it could also be just unconsciously her feeling the baby coming and wanting to get as much mommy time as possible. So we've been definitely trying to spend some good quality one-on-one time with her. Josh had a good daddy-daughter date day with her last weekend, and last Friday her and I did mommy-daughter spa night. So I gave her like a big bubble bath and we did a popsicle bath, which, if you guys are new to having kids, that was seriously the best piece of advice I ever got from any book or TikTok or Pinterest or family member or anything. And it was, if you have a baby or a kid who's just not having a great day, get them outside or get them in water. Best tip ever, works every time. If Lila is having a rough day, either behavior-wise or has been cranky or anything like that, we either make sure we get outside time in. We try to do that every day anyway, or it could be the middle of the day, that saved me during like the lockdown situation was some days we would just do middle of the afternoon baths because kids love to be in water. So get them some good toys for the bath, do a popsicle in the bathtub, make it special. And yeah, so anyway, we did that and like painted her nails and did a whole little mommy-daughter spa night. So we're trying to like make sure we have some really good one-on-one dates with her and one-on-one time before little sister comes, because even though it'll still be a priority to get Lila the time and attention she needs, obviously newborns need a lot of attention and a lot of time. So we're trying to do the best we can and get her involved as much as possible. We're always talking about like, you'll be able to help mommy in these ways when baby sister is here. And she is really excited to help. It's not like she's showing consciousness of being worried about baby. It's just more about making sure she gets that mommy time in too. Another question I've gotten from you guys a few times is, how have your pregnancy cravings been? I've mentioned them on and off in some of my what I eat in a days while pregnant. And to be honest, this pregnancy, there's nothing been that really like sticks, like I've been craving this throughout my entire pregnancy. It kind of comes in waves. Like I'll randomly just really want tacos. I mean, I feel like that's pregnancy or not pregnancy. But for a while, I think it was early second trimester, I was just wanting Mexican food, tacos. There's been a lot more savory or crunchy kind of things that I've been wanting as opposed to sweets. The last couple weeks, bagels have been really high on my list, which is funny because there was a while after having Lila, I wanted nothing to do with a bagel because a bagel was one of the only things I could eat when I felt so nauseous with morning sickness with her that I could actually keep down and like that would help me get through my day. But bagels were back the last couple weeks, but not sweet bagels. I really wanted like everything bagels with like veggie cream cheese. And you guys, it is so good. It's full of like crunchy veg, like cucumbers and bell peppers, onion, but also like that bright acidic sourness of like olives. And this was trying to recreate the fresh homemade veggie cream cheese that Josh and I used to get at this little coffee shop bistro in New Hampshire where we first met and started dating. So random. That was like at least 8 years ago. I don't know why it's come back to my mind and I wanted it. So that's kind of been a big thing. But I would say like that craving is kind of petering off now. Like I haven't really wanted to make the veggie cream cheese or have bagels again in the last couple days. I have still been super thirsty and just like constantly drinking water and refilling my water. I also have really been liking like carbonated water, like flavored water. Just something about like the bubbles I've been craving. And then at night, I don't know if this is truly a craving. It's just become more of a food habit. Every night before bed, I eat a Baby Bell cheese or some sort of cheese. And I have no idea what that's about. I don't know if it's, I just know that like a little bit of protein snack before I go to bed helps me not to wake up like hungry first thing in the morning, or having something in my stomach make sure it's settled for the night. I have no idea. It's become habit. Every night before I go to bed, I want a Baby Bell cheese. So another question I had from you guys is, how has my like mental health and headspace been this pregnancy? And I will say overall, I think I've felt really good. I've been really positive. I know that I went through a lot of health changes before getting pregnant this time around. It helps that this pregnancy has been a lot, I mean, no pregnancy is easy, let's be honest, but it's been a lot easier on my body than my first pregnancy, even though I've had to battle illness and not having a great immune system. I haven't had a ton of morning sickness. I haven't had a ton of pain or any other huge symptoms that have made like life difficult for me. I will say my first pregnancy, I was working full-time before having Lila, and now that I'm able to work for myself part-time and be home, my schedule is a lot more flexible, so I'm able to rest more, and I think that's really been helpful this pregnancy for me. I think the biggest hardship that I've had mentally is handling the change from going from trying to eat at a calorie deficit and healthy and with a goal of weight loss to not having that be a super huge focus in my life right now. Obviously, I'm still trying to eat healthy, eat balanced, get in my good veggies and fruits, a lot of protein, minimizing extra sugar and carbs just because I feel better when I eat that way. And it's helped me just to maintain like a healthy weight and a healthy weight gain this pregnancy. But I will say it's definitely, It was hard when I went back up over 300 pounds for the first time. I hit my lowest weight of 285 before getting pregnant, and I wasn't surprised that I definitely gained a little bit right at the beginning of my first trimester because I was going from, you know, a pretty aggressive weight loss mentality and way of eating to now wanting just to eat intuitively and eat in a healthy balance. I was still using the WW program to kind of track in more of a maintenance calorie and weight zone. So later in the second trimester, when I actually went up over 300 for the first time, that was a little rough. I'm not gonna lie. It was such a huge turning point in my weight loss journey when I broke under 300 pounds that going back up over it was a bit rough. It's been really great having Josh be supportive behind me because he reminds me every day that I'm beautiful, I'm pregnant, I'm making a baby, weight gain is going to happen. And I think what's helpful for me in that aspect is knowing how quickly I got back to my pre-pregnancy weight after Lila. I didn't gain a ton of weight in my pregnancy with Lila. I actually lost weight my first trimester and the beginning part of my second because I was so ill with her all the time. It's usually in my third trimester, which is what's happening now, that I actually start gaining weight in pregnancy. So I'm trying to be mindful of that, not overeating, not eating for two, keeping my exercise up. But I'm also trying just to intuitively eat and listen to my body. If I'm hungry, I'm gonna have a healthy snack. I'm trying to make sure I eat multiple meals or snacks throughout the day just to kind of maintain a good blood sugar. Speaking of that, I don't think I've shared with you guys yet, I tested negative for gestational diabetes this time. I'm so excited. That was a huge hurdle for me in my first pregnancy. I know a lot of women have GD and it can be totally manageable and not something to overly worry about in pregnancy. But for me in my first pregnancy with Lila, when I got diagnosed with GD, it was kind of like the start of my downhill roll of having complications. I needed insulin and they kept having to up my insulin. It was really hard to control my blood sugar. From there, I actually had developed also pregnancy-induced hypertension where I had a couple high blood pressure readings. I didn't have high blood pressure throughout the whole third trimester, but those complications were enough that it definitely added a lot of stress to my pregnancy. I was put on modified bed rest at home my third trimester at 32 weeks. So we're coming up on that time frame now with baby number 2. And it just added a lot of stress and a lot of negativity to my pregnancy journey with Lila. So this time around, knowing that I worked really hard to lose weight before this pregnancy, to stay eating in a healthy manner, to continue exercising throughout pregnancy, like I feel like it has paid off and I have just set myself up for the best outcome. So I'm so proud that I tested negative for GD. I don't have to stress about it and test my blood multiple times a day and take a bunch of insulin and go in for multiple appointments constantly. By the end with Lila, I was going to the doctor's office twice a week and I felt like I lived there. Between getting ultrasounds, NSTs, updates for my diabetes and new numbers and all that kind of stuff. So it just, you know, even though it happens, it's not your fault in a lot of cases. It's hormonal based if you do end up with GD. It is a relief though, knowing I don't have that added stress to this pregnancy. I'm so excited. My blood pressure has also been really good this pregnancy. So that's doing well for being in the third trimester. So yeah, as of right now, perfectly healthy pregnancy. You can be a plus size pregnant woman and have a healthy pregnancy without a ton of medical intervention. So speaking of that, and before I get into my story about my OB and how I ended up seeing a midwife today and what's going on with that, I have one last question from you guys, and it was asking about my journey with WW. Do I plan on sticking with WW after pregnancy? And honestly, I feel like that's hard to answer right now in the moment because my number one focus is just staying healthy throughout this pregnancy, and then it's going to be all about recovery in my postpartum and trying to breastfeed and having a healthy baby. So that's going to be my main focus after I give birth to this baby. I think I'm going to give myself and my body some grace to recover before I start jumping too far into thinking about more weight loss. I did lose 80 pounds with WW over the course of 2 years. I think I've learned a ton from the program. I really think it helped me figure out appropriate portions for eating and how to enjoy the things you like to eat in balance with healthy food that's going to fuel your body. And I've also developed an enjoyment for being physically active, which I didn't have for a long time. So I am excited once I'm cleared by my doctor to get back to more physical fitness, getting back into yoga. I'm still walking and doing some yoga now, just modified for pregnancy, but also to get back to the gym and start doing weight training again. That's kind of where my health goals are right now for after I have baby. And then once I get into a rhythm and feel like I'm accomplishing those goals and in a positive mindset after pregnancy, then I'm sure I will try and start figuring out what my plan is to continue my other health goals for my life. Because even though I lost 80 pounds, I did not get to my goal weight, which I always feel like a goal weight, it's kind of flexible, right? Because a specific number on the scale doesn't define your health. I used to feel like I would tell people my goal weight was around 215, 220, and they'd be like, that's still over 200 pounds. That's way too much. I'm 5'10". The last time I weighed 215 pounds, I was like a pretty fit size 14, had a lot of muscle definition, was working out, felt great, and I would love to get back there. Whether it's a size 14 or a size 8 or, you know, whatever it may be, wherever it settles out, where I feel like my body is healthy, I'm having a good relationship with food, and I'm still working towards my health and fitness goals. So I don't know what method that will be, whether it'll be WW, intuitive eating, calorie counting. I've done a bunch of different things in the past. I'm not saying I would discount WW. Obviously, it's been a big part of my journey and it's been very successful for me in the past, but I'm not really ready to like decide what path I'm going to be taking post-pregnancy at this point. Okay, I've been talking to you guys for a while. Let's wrap up with kind of the story about how my last OB to this OB midwife appointment has gone. So at 28 weeks, I went in for my final GD test. They did test me early at 14 weeks because I'd had gestational diabetes with my daughter. I tested negative at that time. So I tested early, and then they also said that I would test in the normal time frame between 24 and 28 weeks is normally when your OB will test you for gestational diabetes. So because I had tested at 14 weeks, they wanted to wait to the end of that normal window for testing. So at 28 weeks, I had my regular OB appointment, and I also did the glucose drink test, the 1-hour test, and had my blood drawn. So I felt really good about everything. I actually shared what I eat in a day to prepare for my GD test. I'll link it in the iCard above. So I got to the appointment, I did the blood draw, I went in to see my OB, and this is the same doctor that he's like the head of my practice. I saw him for most of my appointments, first and second trimester. And honestly, he was the reason why I decided to go with this practice. I did choose a new practice when I got pregnant to start all of my prenatal appointments at. And when I first went in and met him at my very first appointment, I told him my whole story, my, birth story with Lila, how that pregnancy went, the complications I faced, things that I felt were positive about it, but also things that I felt were kind of negative to the experience, the journey. In some aspects, I felt like there were things that were rushed or that I was pushed into, having been a woman of a larger size and having had some complications. And I told him about my goals for this pregnancy. I told him I do want to try for a VBAC if I'm a good candidate for one. Obviously, the number one goal is to have a healthy baby. But if we can find a way to manage my health and my pregnancy so that I can attempt a VBAC, have less medical intervention, and have a more natural labor process this time, that was the journey that I was hoping for. And I really felt like he was on that page with me. It made me so excited to feel like I had someone, a medical provider, who was truly listening to me. I felt like they were understanding my wants and goals for this pregnancy and were there to help facilitate that. They weren't just looking at me for my weight on the scale and marking it off as this is going to be high risk. This is going to be medical intervention all the way. No way. You're having another C-section. You're going to be induced. You're going to have all this stuff that just has to happen automatically because I'm a plus size pregnant woman. So I felt really comfortable with him in that moment. And then it kind of became apparent as my appointments went on, leading up to my 20-week anatomy scan, that I almost felt catfished. Like he was telling me what he knew I wanted to hear in the moment. And then as I got later in my pregnancy, he was starting to frame my mind in all of my appointments for the possibility that I will have GD and what that will mean. And, you know, needing to get right back on insulin, needing to have multiple appointments every week to check on the health of the baby because it could be a big baby again. You know, at my 20-week anatomy scan, he sent me for a referral to a perinatal specialist because they couldn't get all the measurements they needed on my ultrasound. So he wanted me to go see a specialist, and immediately was like, you're going to need to start seeing her bi-weekly for ultrasounds and all this stuff that you're going to need, even though I hadn't had any complications at the time. It seemed like a perfectly healthy pregnancy so far. I did enjoy my perinatal specialist, and I do really like her as a doctor. She basically told me when I went there, she did not need to see me for additional prenatal care, with the exception of like once a month growth scans, just so we could check on the baby and the fluid and make sure everything's going okay, because their equipment was giving clearer images than my OB's standard ultrasound equipment, because I am still a woman in a bigger body having a baby. So if that means I can go to her once a month for a growth scan as opposed to needing to go back multiple times for a growth scan at my OB's office, it just makes sense. So that's fine. When I went back for my 28-week appointment though, after my GD blood draw, I saw the same doctor, and I felt like before I even got the results from my blood draw, he was preparing me that I was going to have gestational diabetes. And immediately off the bat, he was like, well, if your numbers are high, you're not going to do the 3-hour test, which is standard. Normally, if you fail your 1-hour test, you take a 3-hour test to decide if you officially have gestational diabetes or not, and to figure out your plan from there. He said if I tested high my first 1-hour test, he wasn't going to do the 3-hour test. They were just going to mark me as having GD. I was going to need to go back to the perinatal, and she was definitely going to put me on insulin right away this time. And I just felt like all of a sudden, he was spinning out and setting me up for all of these expectations that I was definitely going to be high risk, have gestational diabetes, have other complications that was going to come along with that, and no longer be a candidate for a VBAC. So I left that appointment pretty upset. I will say 24 hours later, when I got the call from his nurse saying that not only did I pass my gestational diabetes test, my blood sugar was in the 80s. So basically anything under 120 for your blood sugar with the 1-hour test means you're negative for gestational diabetes. So I killed it. In fact, when I saw the midwife today, she was like, actually, your blood sugar was kind of low. At this point in pregnancy, it's kind of low to only be in the 80s after that 1-hour test. So guys, I killed it. And I was like screaming, so happy. I literally had happy tears flowing down my face. I called Josh right away. I was like, I don't have GD. It's like, in your face, doctor. You didn't believe I could do it. My body can be a healthy body. It just reassured me so much that, you know, women of all sizes can have healthy pregnancies, and that medical interventions, although necessary sometimes, and your number one priority is to have a healthy baby, just because you're a bigger person doesn't mean you're going to have gestational diabetes, doesn't mean you're going to have high blood pressure, doesn't mean you're going to have high risk scenarios involved in your pregnancy. Again, there is nothing wrong if you do have gestational diabetes or other complications, as long as you have a medical team that is behind you and supportive of you and will still listen to you and not just push you in directions. That's all that matters. After that last appointment, I was like, I don't even want to go back and see him. And then I started thinking, like, am I really going to fire my doctor? Am I going to fire my OBGYN at 30 weeks pregnant in my 3rd trimester? I've been thinking about it a lot the last 2 weeks, and luckily, when I went to go make my next appointment, they have automatically been scheduling me with the same doctor. But one of the reasons I chose this practice was because there's actually 3 OBGYNs on staff. One of them is an MFM, so if you do have higher risks or complications, they have a doctor in the practice who can see you and work with you that have more experience and specializations. But they also have a nurse practitioner and 3 midwives, certified nurse midwives on staff. Over the course of my prenatal care, I'm supposed to be rotated through, so I see everyone. So whoever is on call when I go into labor, I'm familiar with all of my care providers. But for some reason, I've only been being scheduled with that same doctor, the head of the practice, and I've just gotten a lot of negative feelings from him lately. So I actually asked when scheduling, can I see one of the midwives? I haven't seen any of them yet. And I was really excited to hear from a midwife's perspective how my pregnancy is going. I've tested negative for GD. My blood pressure has been good. I'm staying active and healthy. My weight gain has been in control and kind of on track for where we've talked about my goals to be, and what the reality is of me actually getting to do things more naturally, go into labor on my own, have a successful VBAC. So I was able to see one of the midwives, so I don't have to change practices. But because I've seen that doctor so many times, hopefully the last few weeks of my pregnancy now, I can rotate through the other staff. And I mean, if I have to go back to him, I will go back to him. I am not going to get rid of this practice, although I strongly thought about the possibility, am I even going to be able to switch doctors in my 3rd trimester? That would be very stressful and a lot to figure out. But luckily, because this practice has multiple providers within the same practice, I'm able to see other people. And seeing my midwife today, guys, I have just completely relaxed about everything. And I think that's okay. It's okay to make sure that you stand up for yourself and see providers that you feel comfortable with, that support what you want in your pregnancy. And it was so great to hear from her. I am a great candidate for a VBAC. And right now I am on track with all of my hopes and wishes for this pregnancy, that there's no reason she feels like that they'll need to schedule an induction. They will let me go all the way to 41 weeks, I believe, before we seriously start talking about the need for that. Sorry guys, my camera died, so I switched over to my phone. I was pretty much wrapping up though. So anyway, I had a super positive appointment with my midwife. Things are on track with all of my hopes for this pregnancy. I was able to schedule my next appointment with another one of the midwives, so I'm rotating through more of the staff now. And I found out it's actually the midwives in the practice that are first on call for when their patients go into labor, and then they'll bring in the OBs and doctors as needed for extra support or if complications arise. So I feel really excited about this path that we're going down. I'm looking forward to working with more of the midwives, but also knowing that I'm still going to a doctor's practice. I'm still going to have a hospital birth, which as someone who previously had a C-section was important to me to make sure that I had the medical care available to me in case of complications or medical emergency. I'm still getting support and prenatal care from midwives who are really going to be encouraging me to have a successful birth and follow the birth plan that I want and the experience that I want. And I don't know how much I've talked about this on my channel with why I really want less medical intervention, but obviously with Lila, I had a complicated birth. It was an induction at 37 weeks. They only gave me a few hours on Pitocin to try and progress, marked me as failure to progress, and put me into an emergency C-section. I had some complications with the anesthesia during C-section, and I was shaking so bad they had to put me under to close me up after they got her out. I didn't get my golden hour. I did not have a successful breastfeeding journey with Lila. That's why it's so important to me to at least be able to try to have a more natural route this pregnancy, both for being able to recover well, hopefully having a positive breastfeeding journey with this baby. These are just my hopes for how I want to give birth. Anyway, I feel like I've rambled at you guys way too long with this pregnancy Q&A update. I'm glad I'm finally able to get you guys updated on how everything's been going. Leave me a comment down below. If I missed one of your questions, I'm sure I will answer it in an upcoming vlog. I'm excited to start sharing some baby prep videos with you guys. More day in the life vlogs, more what I eat in a day to stay healthy during this pregnancy, with recipe ideas, meal prepping for baby's birth, doing some big freezer meal preps coming up, nesting and setting up all of the baby things. So lots of fun videos coming your way. If you haven't yet, I'd love for you guys to subscribe and join our community. Hit the like if you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I get up, I always do. I never think, I always do. Never thought